I'm Crimson Schultz. Welcome to the Round House. We used to live down the street about 10 years ago, and every time we would drive up or down to our house, I would try and peek and see what was down in this cabana. And I just loved it because it's such a quirky little round house. Just wanted to know what was going on down there. To me, it just looked like a throwback to Palm Springs. And so I would always have the kids go up, and if they were selling Girl Scout cookies, knock on the door. If they were trick-or-treating, knock on the door. We were always trying to just peer inside. The backstory is I've always wanted this house, but it took a lot of everything coming together to get it. We bought this house from a family who had owned it for 50 years. The woman that we bought it from, there was a smoke fire in her home, and you can look up there, and she gutted the house. She's in her 80s. Because every time she'd come in here after the remodel, it would smell like smoke. So she took it down to the studs. That's the condition upon which we got it. When we did that, we had the opportunity to start over from scratch. We wanted to keep as many original features as possible, but it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and we're a family of 4. So we turned it into a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bath. It's not a big house, but we've utilized lots of different techniques to maximize the space in a modest home. The unique feature about this house is everything is round. The kitchen we're standing in is a complete circle. Most rooms in this house are round, and all the walls are round. We were searching to find out who the architect was. You put in round houses and you get things like silos. But we found finally, after a year and a half of searching, we think this was built by John Lautner. John Lautner was a protege of Frank Lloyd Wright, and while in the Frank Lloyd Wright houses you have a lot of clean angles and very organic, one of the things that's beautiful about John Lautner that he studied from and learned from Frank Lloyd Wright is it's an organic process. So this house in particular is tucked in the rocks, and it's just indistinguishable. It looks like it's just an extension of the hillside upon which it is built. These are some of the original features we tried to keep, which was tricky. This house had a seam cut through it to replace all the plumbing. So you see where the new concrete is. And when we spoke to the plumbers, when they're doing demolition on a project, they kept saying things like, do you want to keep the marble? Do you want to keep the slate? And we're like, yes, of course. So this marble tub, which you step into, was able to be preserved through a very intense and violent restoration. The marble stayed intact, and they jackhammered around this beautiful glass door with the bakelite finish, and that stayed too. This is a unique feature. The original owner of the house was left-handed, so when he hired an architect to design everything, he wanted all the handles to be left-handed. Originally, this was a closed-in kitchen, and we just didn't want to miss the view into the backyard. So the first thing we did was knock this wall out. You can see it's a perfect circle. It was down to the stud, so the real trick was, could the sheetrock crew do the work? Because as you're looking, the ceiling is not only curved and angled, it's arced. This is the comma room. Originally, this was the 2nd bedroom. It is shaped like a comma, so the sheetrock guys came in and they sprayed it and they got it wet. We moved the door over, and to your surprise, if you walk in here, there's a full bath. The first thing we did was restore this pool. If you can imagine, while it's pretty Caribbean blue right now, it was filled with muck and turtles that had been trapped in there for 2 years. But we saved them and released them into a nearby creek. It's a turtle! There we go. boutique restaurant across the valley called Fox Hill. And we thought it was just a quaint name until we moved in and found out that this is a thoroughfare for a family of 7 of foxes. We found all sorts of wildlife living here in the middle of the city because we're on an 1.25 acres. We found a family of skunks and possum. There's hawks and owls. Because it goes off through the meadow, we find all sorts of bobcats and nature.